this episode, we are looking beyond the exam itself and thinking about what happens after you earn the CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst (CYSA Plus) certification, because passing a certification is meaningful, but it is not the end of the story. For many beginners, the period after certification feels strangely uncertain. While studying, the mission is obvious because there is a test to prepare for, a body of knowledge to review, and a date to work toward. After passing, the question changes from how do I study this material to what do I do with it now? That shift can feel exciting and a little disorienting at the same time. The good news is that CYSA Plus tends to be valuable precisely because it does not lock you into one narrow future. It helps open several possible directions, especially for learners who want to move toward practical defensive work, clearer professional identity, and a more credible place in cybersecurity conversations. One of the first things to understand is that a certification rarely creates a career by itself, but it can absolutely change the way your background is interpreted. Before earning CYSA+, a learner may look to an employer like someone interested in security. After earning it, that same learner may look more like someone who has made a serious step toward being useful in security operations, vulnerability work, or incident support. That difference matters. Hiring decisions are often shaped by signals, and certifications serve as one kind of signal that says this person has invested real effort in learning how defensive security works. For people coming from help desk, system administration, networking, or other information technology (IT) roles, CYSA Plus can help shift the narrative from general technical support toward security-focused readiness. It may not erase the need for experience, but it can make your experience easier to translate into a security story that others can recognize. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Career paths after CYSA Plus often begin in roles that involve monitoring, analysis, triage, investigation, vulnerability review, or security coordination. A learner may move toward a Security Operations Center (SOC) analyst role, a junior cybersecurity analyst role, a vulnerability management position, an incident response support role, or a more security-centered version of an existing IT job. The exact title matters less than the kind of work being done. What usually changes is that you become more involved in identifying suspicious activity, interpreting system behavior, reviewing findings, communicating concerns, and helping teams decide what should happen next. That is one reason the certification is useful. It supports a move from knowing about security to participating in the daily judgment calls that security teams actually make. Even if the first job after certification is not your dream role, it can still be a very important bridge into environments where your analyst thinking grows much faster through repeated exposure to real situations. For some learners, the biggest professional change after certification is not a new job title right away, but a shift in responsibility inside their current job. That can be easy to overlook because people often imagine career growth only as external movement. In reality, many professionals begin their security transition by becoming the person on their current team who can speak more clearly about alerts, vulnerabilities, log review, suspicious behavior, or security communications. A system administrator may start partnering more often with the security team. A network support professional may begin helping investigate unusual traffic patterns. An IT generalist may become the person who understands why a vulnerability finding deserves priority and how to explain it to others. These kinds of changes matter because they turn certification knowledge into visible workplace value. They also help you build credibility in a lower-risk way, which can make later career moves stronger because you are not just claiming interest in security. You are already demonstrating security-adjacent contribution where you are. It is also important to be realistic about entry and growth. Many new certificate holders hope that one credential will instantly move them into a perfect security position with no friction, but career progression is usually more layered than that. CYSA Plus gives you stronger language, sharper judgment, and a clearer understanding of defensive workflows, but you still need to show that you can apply those ideas in real settings. That is why growth often happens through a combination of certification, practical examples, lab work, interview readiness, and the ability to explain how your prior experience connects to security work. A learner who already has years in IT may use CYSA Plus to reposition existing experience more effectively. A learner with less experience may need to combine the certification with home lab work, project examples, or a stepping stone technical role. The certification helps, but it works best when it becomes part of a larger professional narrative rather than the only thing you have to offer. Professional growth after CYSA Plus also comes from the way it changes how you think, not only from the line it adds to a resume. Once you have studied analyst workflows seriously, you start seeing systems, alerts, user behavior, and vulnerabilities with more structure and less confusion. That matters in the workplace because cybersecurity often rewards people who can remain calm, notice patterns, and explain what they are seeing without exaggeration. Those are habits that improve performance in many jobs, not only in formal analyst roles. Someone who understands incident logic, risk prioritization, and evidence-based communication becomes easier to trust during uncertainty. Teams notice that. Managers notice that. Over time, this kind of professional maturity can matter as much as any technical keyword. Career growth is not only about checking eligibility boxes. It is also about becoming the kind of person others rely on when something looks wrong and the next move needs to be thoughtful instead of impulsive. Another major benefit after certification is confidence, but it is worth being careful about what kind of confidence matters. The most useful confidence is not the feeling that you now know everything. That kind of confidence becomes fragile very quickly. The more useful version is quieter. It is the confidence of recognizing the terrain, understanding what sort of problem is in front of you, and knowing how to begin thinking through it. CYSA Plus can give learners that kind of confidence because it helps organize a large and confusing field into recognizable categories, such as monitoring, analysis, vulnerability handling, incident response, and communication. Once those categories feel familiar, workplace conversations become easier to follow, job descriptions become easier to interpret, and technical discussions stop sounding like an unrelated flood of terms. That kind of grounded confidence supports growth because people are much more likely to pursue opportunities when they can imagine themselves functioning inside them instead of feeling like total outsiders. The certification can also help you make smarter decisions about specialization. Before CYSA Plus, cybersecurity may appear as one giant field full of disconnected branches. After studying and passing it, you may start noticing which parts of defensive work attract you most. Some people become especially interested in log analysis and detection logic. Others are more drawn to vulnerability prioritization and exposure reduction. Others find that incident handling and investigative work hold their attention more strongly. Still others discover that they enjoy the communication side, where technical findings must be translated into useful action for different audiences. This matters because career growth becomes more deliberate when you can tell the difference between what sounds impressive and what genuinely fits your strengths. CYSA Plus gives enough exposure to several connected areas that it can act like a sorting experience. It helps you see not only that cybersecurity has many lanes, but which lanes you may want to travel more deeply over time. Professional growth also depends on how you talk about your certification after you earn it. Many learners make the mistake of presenting the credential as though the certificate itself is the achievement and nothing else needs to be said. A stronger approach is to describe what the certification helped you learn to do. You might explain that it strengthened your understanding of defensive monitoring, vulnerability management, incident response thinking, and analyst-style communication. You might connect it to specific projects, labs, investigations, or responsibilities you have handled. You might show how it improved the way you review evidence, prioritize risk, or speak to technical and non-technical stakeholders. This matters because employers and managers are usually not just buying a certificate. They are trying to understand the capability behind it. The more clearly you can connect the credential to your actual thinking and behavior, the more likely it is to help your career in tangible ways rather than sitting passively on a profile or resume. Networking with other professionals can become more useful after certification as well, because you now have stronger context for the conversations you are entering. Before studying, it can be hard to join security discussions without feeling lost or overly cautious. After CYSA Plus, Many learners find they can follow real-world conversations about detection, alerts, incident handling, logging, or vulnerability decisions with much more confidence. That does not mean pretending to be more experienced than you are. It means being able to participate with better questions, clearer vocabulary, and more relevant examples. Professional growth often happens at the edge of these conversations. Someone remembers that you asked thoughtful questions. Someone sees that you understand the basics and are worth mentoring. Someone connects you to an opportunity because you no longer sound like a person vaguely interested in cybersecurity, but like someone who has begun doing the intellectual work required to belong in the field. That is one of the quieter but very real ways certification can support career movement. Another important part of life after certification is deciding what comes next in your learning. Earning CYSA Plus should not create pressure to immediately collect another credential just for the sake of momentum. A better question is what kind of growth would actually make you more effective. For some learners, the right next step is practical experience rather than another exam. For others, it may be deeper study in cloud security, incident response, vulnerability management, digital forensics, threat hunting, or governance depending on their role and interests. The value of CYSA Plus is that it gives you enough structure to choose more intelligently. You are no longer choosing blindly from a long list of security topics. You have a better sense of what the analyst function includes and which parts of it you want to strengthen. Good professional growth is usually selective rather than frantic. It builds on what you have already begun to understand instead of constantly abandoning one direction for whatever seems newest or loudest. It is also worth recognizing that life after certification often includes an emotional adjustment. During the study period, there is a clear target, which can make motivation easier. After passing, that target disappears, and some people feel flat for a while even though they achieved something valuable. That is normal. Growth after certification often becomes less about dramatic milestones and more about slower professional development. You begin noticing that you read alerts differently, ask sharper questions in meetings, understand security headlines with more nuance, and respond to technical problems with more structure. These gains can be subtle, but they are real. If you only value obvious milestones such as job changes or salary jumps, you may miss the deeper change that is already happening in the way you think and work. Professional maturity often advances quietly at first. Then, later, the external opportunities start catching up to the internal development that was already underway. There is also a long-term advantage in how CYSA Plus helps build credibility across different types of organizations. Not every employer runs security the same way. Some have a large dedicated security team. Some spread security responsibilities across infrastructure, operations, and compliance groups. Some are still trying to mature their defensive capabilities. In all of these settings, people who can think like analysts are useful. They can look at noisy information and make it more understandable. They can distinguish weak signals from meaningful concerns. They can help others prioritize action without losing perspective. That means the certification can support not only a first security role, but a broad range of future growth inside organizations where formal titles and structures may vary. The deeper value is not that every employer will use the same label. The value is that the analyst mindset developed through CYSA Plus travels well across many environments where thoughtful defensive judgment is needed. Eventually, CYSA Plus can also become part of a larger professional arc that includes leadership, specialization, mentoring, or strategic influence. Not everyone wants to move in the same direction, and that is perfectly fine. Some people will remain happily in hands-on defensive roles and become excellent investigators or monitoring specialists. Others will move toward engineering, architecture, threat intelligence, or management. What matters is that analyst thinking remains useful across all of those futures. Leaders benefit from understanding what defenders actually see and how they reason. Specialists benefit from understanding how their work connects to detection, prioritization, and response. Mentors benefit from remembering how confusing the field felt at the beginning and how valuable a clear path can be for someone new. In that way, life after CYSA Plus is not only about opening the next door. It is also about building a stronger foundation for every door that may come after it. By the end of this discussion, the biggest idea to carry forward is that life after CYSA Plus is less about one dramatic transformation and more about entering a new stage of professional clarity. The certification can help you reposition your experience, pursue analyst-centered roles, grow inside your current job, speak with greater confidence, and make smarter decisions about where to specialize next. It can also strengthen the habits that employers value most in defensive work, such as calm judgment, evidence-based thinking, thoughtful communication, and practical awareness of risk. Those qualities do not always produce instant results, but they compound over time. If you use the certification as a platform rather than a finish line, it can support meaningful career movement and durable professional growth. The exam may end on one day, but the real value of what you learn begins showing up in the choices you make, the work you contribute, and the kind of security professional you gradually become.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.